All right, let's do it. Let's talk about cameras. One of the hot topics when you're involved in videography or creating videos is always camera gear. And I've been on a series of gear acquisition syndrome. One of those will almost always be the cameras that you choose, camera or cameras. Primarily, the choice comes down to what will you be using your camera gear for. You have to decide that. If it's just for vlogging, that's going to change your choices over maybe something in particular. One of the main reasons that I choose the camera gear that I choose is based upon the type of work that I want to do. So for me, it's about documentary style creation, it's about long format interview, and it's also about wedding videographies. Some business videography, commercial stuff as well. So you choose your gear based upon what your use case is going to be. And for me, that has been the Panasonic Lumix GH5. The reason that I chose this is really multiple, but we'll get into that. These are great cameras, by the way. They're relatively affordable. They can be found open box style cost for $1,400 for the body. The lenses are reasonably affordable as well. A 24-70 equivalent, like what's on this at the moment, is about $800. Now maybe for you that sounds like it's expensive, but in the world of good quality glass, people out there will agree, I think, that $800 is a reasonable price for a 24-70 lens. So let's talk about what the positives of the GH5 are, and then we'll talk about the negatives. The positives are based around what I use it for, but for what you use it for, it might not apply. So your results may vary, as they say. For me, one of the things I love is the unlimited recording. So most cameras on the market today have a 29.59 record limit. The GH5 does not. It will record until it runs out of battery. That's great for long form content like what I capture, oftentimes long form interviews and also weddings and wedding ceremonies. You can start the thing running and you just don't have to worry about going back and starting it up or losing any content. The other thing that's really nice about that is that everything that's recorded in that long form content is one file on the memory card. So it doesn't break it up into 3 or 4 gigabyte files. So that's one advantage that I really love about the GH5. The second thing is just the battery life, honestly. Comes with this nice size battery, of which you can find additionals on the third-party market relatively affordable. You can get a couple of batteries on the aftermarket world for about $30. It comes with a charger. Those batteries will last about 2 to 2.5 hours each of unlimited recording. The other thing is that you can buy one of these additional add-ons like this. It's an expansion grip that not only increases the grip space, but also gives you the ability that if you do shoot vertically, which is popular in the world of Instagram these days, you have all your same button functions on the side for a side grip as well. Obviously, another one of the great things is an additional battery slot location. So what that means is that you can put 2 batteries in this, one in the grip extension and one in the main camera body, and you can get 4 to 5 hours of unlimited recording time. Now maybe that sounds a little crazy, but depending upon what you're doing, long format interviews or events, it's not uncommon to go over a couple of hours potentially in record time. So that's really nice. The other thing about the GH5 that is really life-changing for those of us who have been doing, different kinds of cameras over the years is the image stabilization that it has. It has dual optical image stabilization, which means you can handhold shots that you really couldn't do on other cameras smoothly. This is a mechanical stabilizer that's built onto the sensor, as well as works in combination with optical stabilization that's in the lens. This is not electronic stabilization. This is actual mechanical stabilization that gives you 5 stops of stabilization. Some say more, but about 5 stops of stabilization for handheld videography, photography, and all of those things. Now, that can really save you a ton of time in shooting. Yes, I still have a gimbal. We just talked about that in a video. Yes, I still use the gimbal, but I can get shots handheld that come out looking really nice that before just were really almost unusable. So the dual optical image stabilization is really a huge part of why this camera is so good. The other thing that's really nice about it is it will record 4K 60 frame per second footage, which is really nice if you want to slow down your footage and do any slow motion. That 4K 60 gives you the ability to slow it down to 24 frames per second and still get some real nice, smooth 4K imagery. The other thing that's really nice is the color science that Panasonic's including. That color science, while many would argue isn't as good as Canon, I do believe it's better than Sony in their color science, and I think it's comparable to Canon in many ways. And you have the ability to record in varying bit depths, so you can go all the way up to 422, 10-bit color depth. Flat profiles are available, lots of options for log and color profiles that are built in or that can be acquired for your GH5s. The other thing is just the overall size. So these are micro 4/3 sensors, right? So camera body size is really compact. It does have a flip screen which can be used to see if you're filming yourself. Gives you the ability to hold it and be able to get a good view like this. So screen size is nice. Camera body size is nice. The weight is nice. Because it's a micro 4/3 sensor size, you do get some advantages in size and weight as opposed to the traditional full frame. Now there are disadvantages to that as well. The disadvantages are smaller sensor means it's not as good in low light situations. Now for me, that's not a deal killer, because when you're doing corporate videos, interview style videos, wedding videos, we're lighting almost all of those when need be. So if I'm at a service that is, or a ceremony that is in an evening, I can put a spotlight on the couple so that I can get good skin tones. If it's a reception afterwards on the dance floor or toast givers, I can easily put a spotlight on them to get better low light or better light out of the situation. So for me, the low light issue is not really a big deal. If it is for you, there are options for the GH5. You can do what's called a Metabone speed booster and get some prime lenses that are really fast, that give you greater low light capability. But there are better options if you do a lot of low light shooting than this camera. The other con is the autofocus. So if you're one who needs good autofocus, this is not the camera for you. The autofocus that comes with the GH5 is a DFD style autofocus. So unlike Canon and Sony, who are doing phase detect autofocus and dual pixel autofocus, this camera is not going to be the autofocus king that you're going to want. Again, for what things that I do, I don't need autofocus. Most of the shots that we're taking are manual focus shots and don't require a lot of autofocus needs, interviews, long form content. We don't really have a need for a lot of autofocus. So that's why this camera works out well for many of us. So I just want to talk a little bit about the GH5. I've invested in several of these now. I have 3 GH5s that we use at weddings and for interview situations, and we've got lighting and things of that nature that we take along, and we're really enjoying taking part in using that dual optical image stabilization. That great battery life has really worked out for us. In the grand scheme, we really feel like the GH5 fills that niche for us for doing the kind of work that we need it to do. So if you're thinking about any of those use cases that I use the GH5 for, might be a camera that you can still consider in 2019. This kind of a rig right now still has great specs for content creation. At 4K 60, lots of options for color science, bit depth, can give you some really great performance for a camera for video creation, even in 2019, even though it's a year or two old. So maybe give that some consideration. Appreciate you watching some more gear acquisition syndrome. We'll talk to you again soon.